Mic checker, chicka. It's not son, baby. Yeah. A one time, baby. What? For your mind, baby. Yeah. We gonna shine, baby. And what we do, we gonna grind, baby. Yeah. What? And this is another episode, Swingers After Dark. And this is your host, not son, baby. Here we go. It's not easy getting over a breakup. It's not. Like, a lot of people have an attachment with their mate, or former mates, rather. Let me back up. A lot of people have an attachment with their mate. And a lot of people don't want to believe what they thought was real turned out to be fake. That's why a lot of people tend to hold on to a relationship or to a person, or even both, that may be toxic. People love to hold on to something or somebody that's toxic so they can work things out. But some things are just not work outable, And I was in a relationship and a swing lifestyle not too long ago, and me and this chick, we were together for 2 years. We got together in 2016. We broke up in 2018. And it was a roller coaster, baby. Woo! It was a roller coaster. I'm not talking about them roller coaster rides at Six Flags. Nah, it wasn't that roller coaster. You feel me? Like, it was getting to the point where I would have to promise myself to not get into an argument with this woman. It was like we would argue every other day. And the honeymoon stage was beautiful. Like, when we first got together, it was beautiful. Everything was clicking on all cylinders. Nah, it wasn't perfect, but hey, I enjoyed the honeymoon stage. I was like, shit, I could get used to this relationship shit, because I'm not a relationship type of person. At least I don't think I am. Like, I'm willing to, I wouldn't say try, because try means to fail. I'm willing to get involved with something that I'm not used to, because I'm all about evolving. When you're stagnant, you'll never grow. It's about growing and developing, and not being like redundant, not being monotonous. Because then life is going to get boring if you don't experience new things in life, So we got together. Everything was, easy peasy. And then it just fell off by the wayside. It was like we was getting to petty arguments. Make a long relationship short, it was like we didn't have much chemistry and connection outside of fucking at swing parties. And that's a fundamental issue of not only my relationship, but a lot of relationships in the swing lifestyle, is that it's not a good look if going to swing parties is the foundation of your relationship. Now, if I would have turned back the hands of time, I would have said, listen, baby, we're not going to parties. We're not going to swing parties, events, or whatever the case may be, until we get our shit together, until we have a solid foundation to walk on and to stand on. Like, granted, she threw parties of her own, but that's okay, because you're a group owner. We will attend your parties, but until we get our shit together, we're not partying. You know what I'm saying? Because when you don't have your foundation in order, people could easily pull the thread from the fabric of your relationship, and your shit will unravel. It would be disrobed, and then now you standing out in the cold with no shelter, with no clothes, because people would needle through your relationship and pick apart your relationship. And because you're not sure that you could trust your mate, because you didn't build that solid foundation, you're looking at your significant other funny. Because when you have too many people in your business, you don't know what is what. You don't know what is true and what is false. Because you did not develop that bond with your mate to the point where if somebody say something slick about your mate, first of all, you're going to shut that shit down. You're not even going to entertain the conversation. And second of all, you know that your mate is not going to disrespect your relationship. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm saying that it's improbable. You feel me? It's like you and your mate develop ESP and that trust and that respect to the point where you like, yo, get the fuck in my face when somebody comes up with an allegation and you wouldn't entertain it. You'll probably bring it up with your mate. You know, you're going to bring it up with your mate so the both of you can have a not misunderstanding, so the both of you can have an understanding, so there will be no misunderstandings. You understand me? It's all about communication and comprehension and respecting that communication that the both of you comprehend. Because you can love somebody, but just because you can love somebody, that doesn't mean you respect them. You know, a lot of people disrespect people who they love every day. A lot of people fuck over people who they love every day. But if you have deep respect for somebody, you're not going to violate. And you know, in my relationship, we really didn't have that respect. We loved each other, but we didn't have that respect. We didn't have that bond towards each other. And that's why we got into petty squabbles and, you know, arguments. We really didn't build a foundation on solid ground. It was on quicksand because our relationship was based on sex, was based on busting nuts. Like we went out to eat. We went to a baseball game. You know, we did a lot of things that quote unquote normal couples do, but it wasn't enough. We should have just fell back from the lifestyle and work on our relationship before we decided to go balls out at parties. It's like we did shit backwards, and I take full responsibility for that. I take full blame for that, you know, because I should have sat her down and say, look, baby, you know, we just gonna work on our relationship. We're gonna work on us. It's all about us, never them. You know, but I didn't have the wisdom and the maturity at the time to have that foresight. I was in a relationship, but I was carrying myself as a single male. And that's another reason why my relationship was a fucking disaster. But that's life. You live and you learn. You live and you learn from your mistakes so you won't repeat history. And I learned a lot from my relationship. You understand me? But you know how I got over that relationship is that I removed myself from the swing lifestyle. I deactivated my page because I didn't want to give people the satisfaction to look on my page to see if I would have said something about my ex. Nah, we're not going to do that. So I took a break. I took a breather. You know, I took a break. I took a hiatus to regroup, to focus on myself. And during that time, instead of sulking, instead of crying, instead of having regrets, because I do not regret the relationship and I do not regret being with her. Because, you know, there's a blessing in every lesson. I'm going to say that again. There's a blessing in every lesson. And I learned a lot of lessons from that relationship. So, you know, I fell back from the swing lifestyle and I worked on myself. I took a look in the mirror, a hard look in the mirror, and I had to do some assessments. I had to reevaluate myself. You understand me? And during that time, I used that time to start a podcast. I recorded 200 episodes before its grand release, before the grand opening, but before I decided to, you know, unveil the Swingers After Dark podcast. I worked on my podcast. I worked on my craft. You know, I taught myself how to engineer and mix sounds, audio. You know, I taught myself a lot of things during that time of me falling back from the swing lifestyle. I even learned a little bit of IT. You know, I got into IT, information technology. So I used that time to learn not only myself as a man, as a person, but also, you know, new ventures that can help me in the future. You understand me? Because every time I look in the mirror, I see the future. I don't see the past, and I necessarily don't see the present, even though I am in the present. But at the same time, I like to look at the future of what I could become. And so I could put myself there in my mind, put the physical and the mental. And that's what I did. I did not sulk. I did not, I wasn't depressed. I could have been depressed because I don't like to fail. But I used that energy, that depression, the energy of depression into something progressive, into something productive. You feel me? I got off my ass and say, look, it's go time. It's game time. I got to get on my grind. I got to write this book. I finished my book. Yes, not only I podcasted, but I also finished You, Me, Us, Them. I finished writing my book that I was working on during my relationship, and I became a podcaster. So I went from one venture to another. So not only I worked on myself, I also worked on my craft, on my arts and craft. And that's how I got over my relationship. I harnessed that energy into something positive. And instead of like being depressed and sulking and saying fuck the world and being mad at the world and doing something that I might regret, that might land me into a prison or in a cemetery, I use that energy to pave the way for the future. And that's how I got over my breakup. You understand me? Because if something that's not meant to be, you can't fight it. And that's why I learned you cannot fight something that was never meant to be. You got to let it go. You got to let it go. You can't hold on to something that's not meant to be with you. Because if you do, it become toxic. And then it become cancerous. And if you don't get rid of that toxicity and that cancerous cell, then it's just going to grow. And you're going to die breathing. You're going to be the walking dead. You understand me? And then you're going to develop these toxic traits that's going to radiate outwardly. And then it's going to become contagious to the point where you burn bridges and you become messy and you find yourself in situations that you don't want to be in. And like I said, we only got one life to live. Have fun, have at it. We're going to go through our bumps and bruises, but what does not kill you will make you stronger. And God damn it, now I should be able to lift the planet. And on that note, this has been another episode of Swingers After Dark, and this is your host, Not Some Baby. Check out my website at www.notsunblaze.com. That's www.nahsunblaze.com. And check out my ebook, You, Me, Us, Them, and Fuck, F-U-C-K. Check out Fuck. Yes, you heard it right. They're on Nook, Kindle, iBooks, Google Play. Go get it. Shoot me an email at swingpodcast@gmail.com. That's swingpodcast@gmail.com. Hit me up with any questions or concerns that you may have. Rate, share, subscribe, and comment on this podcast. Dig. And on that note, until next time, peace.